Welcome back, everybody. It's Latin's Fight Picks. Today we will recap the fight card for Perez versus Teira, UFC 93, which happened last night. Today was a good day. I can actually get it done on the day after. So it's all fresh in my mind. We'll go over the board, what went right, what went wrong, and we will, as usual, we'll go over from how we predicted it, most confident to least confident, talk about the fights. And yeah, see if we can make some notes for next time as well. So let's start. Most confident, Almabayev. And as expected, Almabayev won with a minus 650. He dominated all the rounds. But, I mean, there were moments where this Johnson, this is why we had labeled it at plus 425. Almabayev was definitely not the side to bet on, even though we picked him as a pure pick. And he is a really good wrestler, but Johnson, with his length, I mean, it's not the talent, but the length of Johnson was causing problems from Almabayev. But that did not mean Almabayev didn't win every single round. He is the most confident for a reason. He won every single round. The intangibles, which were in Johnson's favor as far as physical intangibles, didn't quite work, even though he did try. Manes, everybody had picked Manes to finish this fight. Actually, I had a bet on Manes on decision, so that was a good play. I just didn't think Manes has the finishing ability, and Flick is pretty tough, and Manes was going to have to mind his P's and Q's, just not make sure he doesn't get submitted or something crazy like that. So, pure pick, Manes. As a decision was a good pick as well. Minus 575. It was not bettable at this, but it was bettable as a decision prop. Ulenbekov was canceled. Knudsen won. You know what? But she definitely got exposed as far as her ground game. There was a few times that she got at least one time she got on the ground and she wasn't able to get back up. And Palestri won those rounds. But Palestri, like I said, she's indestructible. This girl can take punishment and doesn't even get phased. Like, she just takes a lot of shots. She's going to be fun to watch against certain matchups. But with this matchup, Knudsen was way too fast, way too good of a technical striker. And she did manage to stuff some takedowns and get back up and reverse. But there was a couple times where, I spent one time, I remember specifically, where she just could not get back up. And she ended up losing that round. Knudsen, easy victory for her. If she sharpens up some of her ground game, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Moving on, next, Armfield. I got little notes here. Almost finished Heistad. We knew it was going to be close. I just thought this was going to play out like Armfield and Katona, but it played out more like Heistad and Dana, where Dana dominated the first two rounds and then got gassed and then got put in a bad position and got TKO. The fight got stopped. With this case, Armfield, took the onslaught of the nonstop wrestling of Heistad, and Heistad won the first round, and then Armfield came back and he almost KO'd this guy. He just could not get the finishing punch because Heistad, being a wrestler, he fell back on the ground and managed to survive long enough to start recovering. And that's going to be a hard time to KO a guy like Heistad, because if he goes to the ground, then you got a choice. Well, do you follow him to the ground? That's where he wants to be anyway. So it was one of the choices. He went back on it and he tried to get enough ground and pound to finish him, but Heistad tied him up long enough to recover. I mean, at that point, you ask him to get the ref to stand them back up, but I'd imagine Armfield was thinking, I can finish this guy right now. That was a little bit of an error. I mean, it's not his fault. That's a tough decision to make. And in the third round, they were both doing really well. And then when he when Heistad got the rear naked choke, and Armfield, to his credit, fought off multiple chokes, deep chokes, where I thought he was going to be out. But this was the last one. Everyone was tired and he got choked out. It's a shame. Armfield could have got the KO, but almost did not. Anyways, It was a close fight. Unfortunately, Arfield lost. Sergey Wilson. And as a pure pick, I said I'll go with Sergey. As a betting pick, I told you, don't bet on Sergey. Wilson would be the side. And as a pure pick, I didn't have the balls to really go with Wilson, just because I know how susceptible he is and how un-UFC level he is. But I also know Sergey's not UFC level. But because of the punching power, I kind of went with that. I didn't have the guts to go with Wilson. But as a bet, I did make a bet on Wilson anyway. But as a pure pick, I went with him. I should have just went with him. Got some balls to just they say fine. We'll just call it a Wilson bet. Period. Anyways, Wilson submitted him. There you go. This guy sucks. He sucks. This guy sucks too. So it was just a matter of which guy were you gonna bet to suck more? Because they're both not UFC level. Andrade, I thought he could be a little quicker than Johns, and he just didn't do enough to win the judges. And no excuses for him, but Johns, he's got a good fighting style. The guy can take a punch. He's pretty durable. He's good defensively. And if you look at the size of his head, look at this guy. He could definitely take a punch. But having said all that, I don't even know. I think I posted a little note on the video. How do people get hit by Johns? This is the same. It's exactly the same critique. Anyways, this is the same complaint I had about Minifield. Is how do you get hit by these punches that get thrown so slow and are looping and coming out of left field? So as far as Minifield would throw the punch, and I remember in fighting Jacoby would throw the punch. Jacoby would literally go in, punch him, and come back out, and then get hit by the punch after that. And same with Andrade. You see Johns throw the punch. Andrade would come in, punch him, and literally when Andrade was coming back out of the pocket, he'd get hit by Johns' punch in the back of the head, because that's where it was at that point. He'd run into it. So anyways, I can hardly wait to fade Johns in the future. Moving on, Perez. You know what? Perez was winning the fight until the knee injury. And that's kind of how I expected it. I expected him to out-wrestle him, out-scramble him, and win these rounds and go in there and make it dirty and throw some punches and land enough punches. He just had to win a couple more rounds. Now, granted, that second round, because of the back take, we don't know what would have happened, but I'm pretty sure that Perez has survived those positions, and I've seen Teira in that position and not submitting guys as well. So it's not like he's indestructible or gets it every time. But unfortunately, when Perez did fall down, the knee blew out, and then that was it. But up to that point, he was winning. I was expecting him to win. It was plus 165. I remember putting an extra bet on it, plus 225 just before the fight. I thought it was great odds. I thought he was going to win. Knee injury blew that out of the water. Almeida, a lot of people were betting against Almeida. Actually, I didn't see anyone betting on Almeida. I think I was the only one. I mentioned that in that video. But I think they underestimated him. I think he didn't look great in the last couple fights. But he was also fighting high-end guys that were KOing him or beating him on the ground. So maybe maybe there was other problems altogether. But Kwambo was very tough. I had a bet on Almeida, and I had a bet on Almeida for a KO. I was cheering on for the KO. There was 4 times during that fight that he almost KO'd Kwamba, and Kwamba managed to survive. And these guys tough. He is talented. He's young. He's going to do much better, as the career moves on. But Almeida, everyone wrote him off, and I did not. It's a good hit. Fugit, moving on. Quinlan's explosive. He jumps in, he throws these big punches, and if he lands, he can KO you. But if you're defensively sound, and if you got a decent chin, you can survive those. And Fugit was fighting the way he should fight. He fought him from distance. He put a lot of kicks in. That front T kick was money. I kept cheering for him to land more of it. He was also landing kicks to the body, kicks to the head, keeping Quinlan's hands busy and just bruising up his hands. And it was a split 29-28. That was actually ridiculous because Fugit clearly won that fight. It was 29-28, but it was no split decision. I don't even know how that happened. I mean, when I saw it, I'm like, how did these end up being a split decision? I mean, Fugit clearly won that fight. So, anyways, good underdog hit. Fugit won. You know, up to that point, he's been fighting pretty high-level guys, and he's losing to high-level guys. And I didn't think Quinlan was high enough level to beat this guy. But, you know, he's 35. He's getting old now. Moving on, the other good underdog play would have been Judice. And again, when I heard the verdict of split decision, I thought, definitely Judice. There's no way. I was surprised it was a split decision, but nevertheless, these are the type of fights that I was expecting for a split decision to exist. And I thought Judice was going to win. And after watching that fight, thought she was going to win. They gave it to Fernandez. She got robbed. You know, I mean, is it highway robbery? Like, great. No, it wasn't a huge robbery, but it was a robbery. You got 169 significant strikes for Judice, 119 significant strikes for Fernandez. Judice was putting the pressure after the first round. She was the one pressuring. She was the one moving forward. It was Judice's fight. So it would have been a great underdog hit. Unfortunately, the judges ruled against it. Moving on, Costa Nurdenbecki. Nurdenbecki, I made a note here. This guy's super dangerous in the first round. This guy's been KO'd before. Who was that guy? I can't remember. What's his name? Anyways, he got KO'd really bad, and he's tough. He's durable, but you know, in a slugfest, he got cracked. He survived, and he went to the ground, and he got elbowed to death. So he is tough, but he has been KO'd. Nurdenbecki's super dangerous in the first round. Have to really be careful with that one. I actually had this fight by decision, and for a bet on Costa to win, and won by decision. Unfortunately, my decision prop was so close to hitting, but I ended up submitting him. So, which I didn't think was going to happen because Nurdenbecki is so tough. But nevertheless, Costa won. It was a good hit. Nurdenbecki, you know, after the first round, I wasn't worried. Looking at the overall fights, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 11 as pure picks. This one is a pure pick. We gave it here, but the bet was actually on Wilson. So betting wise, it's better than that because I had a bet on Wilson. It would be 7 out of 11. But as a pure pick, it was 6 out of 11. Overall, it's not a good week as far as I'm concerned. I don't like getting more than 3 wrong. 3 wrong is, I mean, that's minimal. As far as I'm concerned, 2 is good. 1 is very good, and 0 is exceptional. But at, you know, 6 out of 11, I'm given the fight card and how unpredictable it is, and how hard I even told everyone this is a hard one to predict. To get 6 out of 11. Now out of the 5 dogs, we hit 2 of them, 2 of the dogs, and this one, of course, due to knee injury. This one due to a robbery and the split decision. I mean, it could have easily been 4 out of the 5 dogs. Sorry, that we picked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 5 dogs. We hit 2 of them, and the other 2, well, were disappointments. This one was clear. He lost that fight. But yeah, hard one to predict. But we did good as far as what we had to deal with. Nevertheless, thank you very much for joining me. Leave a comment in the comment. Let me know how you did, which ones worked out for you, which fights worked out, which parlays worked out. I'd love to hear your take on the fights and the results. And hit like if you like the content. Subscribe if you want to be notified for the next video, which will come out Thursday. And I think that's the Whitaker Ikram Aliskerov fight, I think, next week, I believe. So we'll have that out. Otherwise, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. We will see you in a few days.